Hey everyone, I'm April from Giggle Glitter Graphics, and today we're assembling a free project, the Grand Historium Museum Folio. This free project was sent out today to my email list, but you can join us by signing up using the link in the description down below and have this project sent to you immediately. This project is a free sample of my upcoming story paper crafting kit, The Living Archive. A recent earthquake has shaken the city of Port Meridian, causing some damage, which includes one of the Grand Historium's exhibit rooms. A hole opened up in the floor, and instead of a rough stone sinkhole, it exposed a tunnel of precise stonework leading off to parts unknown. The Living Archive follows Phoenix Squad, a group of adventurers hired to explore the tunnel on the museum's behalf and to return with anything that may be of interest. As we build each project in the kit, we reveal more of the story. The Living Archive will be available for sale in my Etsy shop on Friday, February 13th of 2026, so make sure that you're signed up for my email list and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the release. So let's jump into assembling this folio. I'm printing everything today on 110-pound or 199 GSM cardstock. You can find instructions at the top of the pages. It's going to tell you what to print on. That's cardstock. Everything in this project is cardstock. In the Living Archive, some things will be printed on paper. This indicates it's part 3 of the full kit. You don't need to worry about that today because all we're assembling is part 3, which is the museum folio. And then it also will let you know if you need to print a backer paper on this. I've provided backer paper 2 as part of the free download, the free sample. So you can see this one has no backer paper on the other side. So there is nothing here. But on this one, you need to print that backer paper 2 on the reverse. And that's the only backer paper I've provided, this wood with the gold flecks. There are 12 pages in this project. All of them are on cardstock. The wood background with the gold flakes, that's this one here, that's going to be printed on the reverse side of 4 pages. The one with this larger panel with the jeweled flap on it, the 2 pages that have these little glue here flips on them. 2 of these are on one page, one is on the other with some other things. And one with the history of the Historium and the little note to our esteemed visitors. That will also get that print on the reverse side. For supplies, you're going to need scissors to cut everything out or your paper cutting machine. Liquid glue with a fine point, you definitely need that for this one, and then your optional glue stick. I've got my trusty bone folder and my scoreboard on hand to do all of these creases. I'll be using a Velcro dot to keep the front flap closed on this. If you don't have a Velcro dot or don't want to use one, you can also punch a hole and then use some ribbon or twine or something to keep that closed. And finally, I'm using my vintage photo distress ink on the edges of everything. I also have a quick note about cutting machines. PNGs are provided, but please be sure to use a machine or a method that allows you to print and cut at full page size. Cricut Print and Cut shrinks all of the pieces and can cause things to scale differently. I recommend using a full page workaround if printing and cutting with Cricut. So there is a lot going on here, and I'm actually going to clear out everything. All right, and what we are left with are these 3 panels that have this wood background with the frame on it. And I'm going to show you where the folds are going to go on these. So for the largest panel, we'll start with the hardest one first. You have a fold here between the jeweled area and then the wood grain pattern. There's also going to be a little spine on this. So we're going to fold between this mosaic rope design and the wood, as well as this tab and the mosaic. So this is going to create this little spine here. You can see that, how that looks. There we go. So that is the first panel. This second panel is similar, but more simple. So you've got the wood panel, and then again, you have that rope design on there. There we go. And the tab, and that's going to fold and make just a little spine there so that we have room for all the goodies in our folio. And then we have one plain panel. Finally, I'm going to grab this mosaic piece panel so that we can, this is going to sandwich on the back and hide our tabs. So let's grab that mosaic panel as well. So let's get these in the correct order and we can start gluing the body of this folio together. So I'm actually going to put this piece here with the jeweled tab on it all the way to my right, and I'm going to flip that over So here are my little spine creases, and here's my jeweled piece. This is actually going to flip over onto the front of the folio, and then this is the inside of the folio. So it will be, there's a pocket and things that go here. So that one is going to go on the right-hand side. The plain panel is going to go in the middle, and it can go either way. I like the lighter area towards the top. And that is going to go face down as well. We want all of these frames to go on the inside of the folio, and then this is the outside with this speckled pattern. And then same thing with this one, we need to flip it so that the tab and the spine can overlap on this inner panel, and then we have this panel here. So hopefully that is not too confusing, but we're going to glue these together like this, and let me flip it over and you can see the other side, and that is going to look like this with those tabs underneath, and the little ropes are going to go on either side of that panel. So this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to grab my glue. I'm going to use my Beacon Fabri-Tac, and grab a white sheet of paper so you can see this tab just a little easier. I'm going to glue right along this dark tab. Not too much glue. I don't want it to be everywhere. And then I'm just going to place this panel right over top of that tab, lining it up top and bottom. And then I'm going to fold this over. You don't have to fold this over harshly. This is going to be a 90-degree angle. Our folio will have a little space to hold the contents inside. So we're just going to give it just a little fold just to make sure everything is lined up and that this panel is pressed up against that corner. And then let's repeat that for this other side. Glue on the tab. I'm going to slide that right underneath, line it up top and bottom. And then I'm going to give that a little fold up so I can make sure that that is aligned properly so that everything is kind of square. Everything's lined up top and bottom, and that back panel is nestled right in that crease. Now I'm going to take this white paper away. It kind of messes with my camera colors a little bit. And we have something that looks like this. We're going to flip it over. And now this panel is going to hide the tabs on the other side. This can go either way. It's up to you. There's not a right or wrong direction. And we just want to line this up on the back side. So we want this. Again, here are our little spine pieces. It's basically the same thing we did on the other side. We just need to make sure that we're within the bounds of those spine pieces. And I'm going to glue this all the way around. So I'm going to make sure this is glued down really well. And I'm going to go over and then fold up and make sure that that's just kind of go like this and see if you've got any buckling or anything going wrong. Now this is the outside, so this doesn't have to be perfect. We're just making sure that when this folds up, it's going to look nice on the back. So you can even fold this way and just shift it around and make sure everything is lined up. And then we've got something that looks like this. So let's work on the outside of this. It's a little simpler than the inside. And I'm going to grab a few pieces here. We have a pocket that's going to go on this panel here on the left. There's a little cutout of the museum that's going to go on the center panel. We have a pocket that's going to glue here on the front. And then we have a decorative piece that's going to go right here. So let's start with the pocket here. This pocket, we need to use our liquid glue, and we're only gluing on 3 sides with a thin line. I'm going to fold this up just to get that little spine piece out of the way. I don't want to accidentally glue too far this way. In fact, I'd like to glue just a little bit in. You should have a little tiny bit of space at the top and the bottom, a little tiny space here to the side. I'm going to hold, when I'm looking at it, the right side. So I'm going to grab that, flip it over, and And I'm going to glue on these 3 sides. So thin line of glue, top, what will be the left side of the pocket, and then the bottom. And then I'm going to put that in place right here. And I'm going to open that up so I can press it into place. You can fold that up again if you need to check its positioning. We have that little spine there. That's going to look like that. Now this decorative piece, this is just going to glue here as a decorative element on the inside of this flap. And I'm going to glue this all the way down. So a little bit of glue all over that. I recommend spreading your glue out, but I don't in the interest of time. And I'm going to grab my bone folder and smooth that out. There we go. And now moving to the left side, let's go ahead and glue this little medallion or this little round piece with the museum on it right in the center of the back panel. Again, try to put glue around the edges really well so that nothing catches on it. If you end up doing the full Living Archive project, then you are going to have a bunch of things in a box and that could get caught. So make sure it's glued down well around the edges. And then finally, we have another pocket that's going to be positioned like so, a little space on the left, right, and bottom. And again, I'm going to fold this up just to make it easier to line it up. And we're only gluing on 2 sides, here and here. What's going to be the right side and the bottom, I'm going to flip that over. So the not angled side, and then along the bottom here. And I'm going to put that into place there. And let's just open that up so I can press that down. I'm going to leave a little room at the bottom and then check that fold and make sure I haven't crept out over the edge. There we go. And that is the back side. I recommend letting this dry for a few minutes before we flip it over and start working on the inside. All right, so I've let mine dry for a few and I'm just going to flip this over. And we need to grab these 3 panels that say glue here on them. One has a tab at the top. That one's going to go in the center. One has a tab on the right-hand side. That's going to go on the right-hand side. And then this one has a tab on the left-hand side and it will go to the left. So pretty simple. We're going to take these tabs. I recommend folding them back and forth a couple of times because we're going to want to flip these open and shut. And then I am going to place some glue. Get my glue open right along this dark tab. And then I want to make sure that this is going to be centered on the panel. So I'm working on the left-hand side one. I've got my left-hand tab glued. I'm going to fold that under with my fingers like so. And then I'm going to place this down on the panel. And I'm just going to kind of use the lines to center this as best I can and make it as straight as I can, just using those frame lines. So now I have something that looks like this. Let's repeat that for the middle one. We've got our top tab. Fold that back and forth a couple of times. Going to put my glue on the tab, on that dark printed part of the tab, not the gold flecked part. I'm going to fold that under with my fingers. And then I'm just going to center that up on the center panel. And that will become a flip up. And finally on the right-hand side, we've got our right-hand tab. And I am going to glue that down the same way, using the same method. Just going to fold that under and center this panel up as best I can. And this one will flip out to the right. So now we have 3 flips. like so. Next thing we're going to do is add the images to the front of each of these flaps. So we've got this one with a dragon. It's going to go on the left. The one with the ceremonial robes is going to go in the middle. And then this one with the marine things are going to go on the right. So if these are popping up, you can use your bone folder or your thumbnail to kind of press these creases down. And then I'm just going to go ahead and glue these over the spaces that I've left here. So again, try to glue pretty close to the edge. I'm starting with our Dragon's Hoard exhibit here on the left. Just going to center that up as best I can and smooth it into place. We've got kind of a historical clothing slash fiber woven goods exhibit. That's going to go here in the middle. Making sure that is centered, and then our ocean maritime theme here on the right. I'm going to let those dry for a moment, and then let's work on the inside. So for the insides, let's start on the left. I'm going to flip this open. And there are a few pockets here. We have two long ones and a short one. These are identical. They're going to go on either side. The shorter one is going to go here in the middle. And the jeweled portion can really go either way, whichever you prefer. It can go this way or it can go this way. But we're going to cover that tab up, and at the same time, we're going to make a little tuck pocket here. So choose which way you want this to go. Flip it, and then we're going to put glue on 3 edges. So for me, that's going to be top, left, and bottom right along this jeweled side. So I'm going to go here, going down the jeweled side, and then I'm going to flip that back and cover the tab up. So you can kind of check and make sure that is hidden behind. If not, make a little adjustment. Much better. And then I'm going to press this down and then fold over. And you want to make sure that you haven't gone over this crease, and then this is going to pop up and not want to stay shut. For the center, I'm going to flip this up, and I recommend picking the same direction, whatever you decided. So I'm going to put the jeweled bit towards the crease. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to do the left top and bottom, or left top and right, sorry. With that thin line of glue, I'm going to flip back, and I'm just going to lift that up a little to make it easier to see. There's a lot of dark brown wood on this one. And I'm going to smooth that into place and then fold down and make sure it is hidden by the flap. And I'll flip that back up so they don't get glued together. And we'll move over to the right, same thing. We're going to turn this pocket the opposite direction of the one on the left and glue the top, right, and bottom. Fold over, check the top and bottom, and there we go. We've got our little tuck pockets in place. Now we have panels that are going to go on each of these and tell us about each of the exhibits. So they look like this. The Dragon's Hoard is going to go here on the left, and we're just going to center that right up on the panel. This is a little description of what is inside of this exhibit. I'm just going to pop that into place, center it up, smooth it down. The center is the Gallery of Woven History. Kind of go around my edges first and then a little bit in the middle. And again, spreading your glue out is going to make things a little more even. This video would be much, much longer to film and edit if I smooth all of my glue out. And then the maritime antiquities and lore are going to go all the way to the right on that flap. There we go. And now that we have these on, I've let mine dry just a little bit. We have a label to go here. We've got the Grand Historium, a repository of ages. That's just going to glue right here on the jeweled flap. And this one, I definitely recommend getting that glue all the way to the edges if possible. I'll grab my little tool here and smooth that out so it goes all the way to the edges. And then I'm just going to center that up on the rectangular portion of this flap and press it down. So once this is dry enough, I'm going to flip actually back to this side, and we have a couple of embellishments to place on this pocket. There is Isolde Cromwell. She's the Director of Acquisitions and Curation. She works here, and this is something I like to do in my kits. If you're doing this as a free sample, you get to decide what the characters look like. So I have provided several portraits here for you, and you can decide what Isolde Cromwell looks like. And I'm going to go with this one. So we're going to place her portrait on the pocket here, and then the little label saying who she is right to the side. So I'm going to glue these on really quickly. And then I didn't get any ink on her portrait, so let's just put a little on there, and then I'm going to glue her portrait right on that pocket, like so. You can see that kind of overlaps the jeweled area. All right, so we have a lot of flipping and flopping going on. This is actually going to fold in, then this folds in, and then this will fold over, and we will secure that with a Velcro dot. But let's go ahead and first create all of the tags and things that are going to slide inside of this. The first thing we're going to work on are all of these little fold over tags. We've got squares, we've also got rectangles. All of these are just going to fold directly in half, match those corners up, and then grab your glue and glue them back to back. So each of these is an item on display in the museum exhibits. So you have the item on the front and then a description of it on the back. So you're going to go ahead and for all of these, you're just going to glue the backs together, making sure that those corners are matched up as nicely as possible. So you have 6 of these, 3 smaller ones and 3 taller ones. And this is the part that I like so much about making these kits, is kind of creating some immersion, that you're going through the museum, that you're learning about the different items that are on display, kind of setting up the story of where you are, what the setting is, who's involved, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the story, finding out what's happening, what's going on, what's below the museum. I really enjoy coming up with all of the little details for this. All right, so I have all of my little cards, all my little tags are done, all 6 of them, 3 and 3. And let's move on to these oval ones. And we just need to make sure that everything is matched up with the right thing. We have a chest of gold, and you can see that this is the description for the chest of gold. It is pretty self-explanatory. There are the pearls, that's right here, oversized pearls. And then this one is actually vertical, so it's a little easier to match up the banner, the battle standard. And we're just going to glue these back to back. So making sure you have the right ones and making sure you're gluing as close to the edge as you can. You can use your glue stick for this. That might be a little easier. That's just a little messier on my workspace, so I'm going to stick with the liquid glue. And we're just going to match up our ovals. And if you've cut these out by hand and they're not matching up perfectly, you can give them a little trim after they're dry, just to neaten them up a little bit. So if they're not matching up perfectly because you cut by hand, don't worry about it. You can even just put more distress ink on it and say that it's rustic. It's a creative choice, an aesthetic choice. These are meant to be fun, not stressful or full of perfection. So keep that in mind. All right, so we have our 3 ovals. Then we have the history of the Historium, and I like to think that this is kind of a grand entrance to the museum, that you walk in and you see this big, beautiful statue serving as like a support pillar for a giant dome, and I love the idea of that. So we're going to place that on the back of History of the Historium. It's just going to fit like so. There we go. I'll smooth that out. And the back of the note to our esteemed visitors, that's just going to remain blank. Nothing on the reverse side of that. So let's grab our folio and let's start with the exhibits. And let's place each item in the exhibit. Now, you can find the same items in the pictures. They should be located, all the items are located in the pictures as well. So for the dragon's hoard, we have the dragon statue. And you want to make sure your pockets are good and dry before you put anything in there so they don't get glued in. We've got the sword and then the chest of gold. For the woven history, we have the battle standard, the pouch, and the ceremonial robes. And those are just going to tuck right up inside. If you cannot get something up in there, you can grab your scissors or grab your bone folder and just kind of sneak it under there and give it a little lift once your glue is dry. And that'll make a space for you to tuck those things up in there. And then over to the maritime antiquities and lore, we've got our last 3. We've got the ship's figurehead, the diving bell, and the pearls. Just little things to explore. And I'm going to flip that over. We have the pocket with its old Cromwell on it. That's where the note to our esteemed visitors goes. It's just going to tuck into that pocket. If you find that it's not wanting to go far enough to the right and it's just kind of sticking out, you can grab your scissors and kind of loosen your glue up just a little bit if you got too much glue or it kind of lost its corner, and then try again. But that should fit right there like that. And then I'm going to flip over the front. We have the history of the Historium is going to go here. And finally, I'm going to grab my Velcro dot. Now, you can punch a hole here, add an eyelet or some kind of reinforcement if you want, and then put some ribbon through it and use that to tie this whole thing shut. That's totally an option. I'm going to use the Velcro dot on this part. And then again, if you wanted, you could tie some ribbon around it to keep it shut. That works as well as just an unattached piece. You do have some reinforcement from the back here. So when you punch your hole, if you do it kind of through the gem, you're going to have some sturdiness from that 2 layers of cardstock. I love Velcro dots. There are Velcro dots used at least one other time in the Living Archive project. So I highly recommend picking some up just for crafting in general. I'm going to put the clear part here. They come with clear and white. And I'm just going to let the white part be right here. It's not too bad. It's still kind of transparent. You can do it the other way around if you like, but that is going to keep that shut. And now we have a nice, thick, fat folio full of goodies to explore. And that has been our tour of the Grand Historium. Thank you so much for crafting along with me, and remember that the Living Archive will be released Friday, February 13th. That kit will be up for sale in my Etsy shop, along with several other story paper crafting kits that I've already made and released previously last year. So if you're interested in meeting Phoenix Squad and crafting their story as they explore under the Grand Historium, just keep an eye on your inbox for that Friday email. If you'd like to stay up to date on all of my latest projects, then give this channel a like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this project, then be sure to check out my Etsy shop for more projects like this one. Frostbound Forest tells the story from the point of view of a researcher in a magical forest. When snow begins to fall in the late summer months, our main character heads out into the forest to investigate the cause. You get to follow along and see what they find on their snowy woodland adventure. Cursed Antiquities and the Umbral Society are a two-part investigation series told by Agent Hale of the Bureau of Esoteric Affairs. You assemble the case files and find out what is happening in a 1920s town with a touch of magic. Cursed Antiquities has 14 different projects with tons of storytelling, and the Umbral Society has a little twist with junk journal pages inside of the file folders and our villain's point of view hidden under a secret bottom in the box. Brightwand Academy and Willow of Whispers are a magic school theme. Explore the school in the Brightwand Academy box set. You can check out the classes and decide what the faculty and students look like. Then build a story in Willow of Whispers where we follow three friends who are noticing that something strange is happening on the school campus. And finally, explore a flying steampunk marketplace in Gilded Gear Marketplace. This box kit holds folios depicting 3 different shops as well as a cast of characters. Mix and match character backgrounds and portraits and store them in the included cases. Then check out Steam and Satin, a story junk journal kit about the marketplace's tailor shop. A missing shipment of supplies before an important event has master tailor Nathaniel Alden looking for answers. I hope today's project added a touch of magic to your life and that you'll craft with me again soon.